Sonic the Hedgehog is a franchise that over the last few years I've become a huge fan of, yet I've never discussed any of the games in the series here, mostly because Sonic can be a bit overwhelming to talk about. That might sound weird, as Sonic as a series is fairly simple. He's a blue hedgehog that goes fast, loves chili dogs, and beats up his rival Eggman. No, when I say Sonic is complicated, I mean the reason why you like Sonic is going to vary on a person-to-person basis. The things I love about Sonic aren't going to be the same for other people. For instance, I love the stories of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, and I've really enjoyed what I've read of the IDW Sonic comic series. However, a lot of people don't like the stories of those games. You might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, that's just a story thing, right? Doesn't seem too complicated. But you'd be wrong, because it can apply to almost every aspect of each game. How levels are designed, whether they're momentum based or boost based, how the scoring works in certain games, even stuff like certain games OSTs incorporating too much rock music or not enough rock music are all discussed to death over the fans of this franchise. I think some of you might be able to understand why talking about Sonic can feel a little overwhelming or even intimidating. However, with this video today, I'm finally going to do it. I'm gonna face my fear and accept any backlash that comes from it, and I'm talking about Sonic today. Now, which Sonic game am I going to be talking about today? Well, since I'm already expecting a bit of blowback on this video, I want to talk about a pretty divisive game in the franchise. I want to talk about Sonic Heroes is the third 3D Sonic game, and the first one that wasn't received the best by game critics of the time. Sure, critics hated the re-releases of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, but those were re-releases. When the games were originally released, they garnered quite a bit of critical acclaim. No, Sonic Heroes is the first mainline Sonic game that is a truly divisive game among both critics and the fan base. I mean that too. For every video or post I've seen that loves Sonic Heroes, I've seen another post or video talking about how much they dislike this game. If the video title isn't an indicator already, I love Sonic Heroes, but I also get why people don't like it. So why is Sonic Heroes so divisive, you may be wondering? And like almost every other divisive game out there, it comes down to the core gameplay design for why a lot of people don't like this game. You see, in Sonic Heroes, you take control of Sonic, of course, and also Tails and Knuckles. You control Sonic by default, but then you can switch between Tails and Knuckles using one of the corresponding face buttons. It sounds simple, right? What's the hate, you may be wondering? Well, the thing is that each character controls differently from one another. In Knuckles' formation, the group is slower, but a lot more nimble and maneuverable. He's also the brawler of the group. If you press B, he'll do a punch. Mashing B will cause Knuckles to act like he's Dante from Devil May Cry, and he will just combo away on enemies. If you jump and then press B, Knuckles will do an attack where he spikes either Sonic or Tails. This attack is really good against large enemies like these turtles. Knuckles is the most tight controlling of the three characters. The trade-off is that he's also the slowest, meaning that if you want that rush of going fast that Sonic games are known for, playing as Knuckles is not the way to go about that. Instead, you'll want to use Knuckles when you're fighting large groups of enemies or trying to make precise platforming. Tails' formation is next. With his formation, everyone makes a tower. If you press A, he'll jump, and then if you hold A, he'll fly for a limited time. And mashing A will make Tails climb up faster in the air. Pressing B has Tails throw one of his friends at either an enemy or something else in the stage, like an item balloon. Tails controls a little looser than Knuckles, however, he's a bit faster. Tails is best for flying over obstacles or enemies. His air attacks can also stun enemies, which is very useful for flying enemies, as it knocks them out of the air. He also completely trivializes the final boss fight, so that's good too. Finally, there is Sonic, the star of the game, and he has the most to talk about, so I saved him for last. If you press A, he'll jump like everyone else. Double press it, he and the rest of the group will do a homing attack on enemies. It's worth noting this homing attack can't hit enemies that Sonic can't reach with a jump, so for flying enemies, you'll have to use Tails' homing attack instead. Sonic can also do a wall jump. If you jump at a near a wall and then jump again, he will jump between the walls. It doesn't come up a ton, but it's fun to do. If you jump and press B, Sonic will spin in the air and then create a mini tornado. This tornado can be used to climb poles and flip over certain enemies to damage them. Sonic can also do the light speed dash from Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. There is a row of rings all lined up, just press the B button and he'll go straight through all of the rings. It's a simple move, but boy is it satisfying to do. Sonic controls the loosest of the three. Playing as him whenever you're trying to do precise platforming is almost a guaranteed death wish. However, the trade-off is that he's easily the fastest of the three characters. Sonic's speed in this game is insane compared to the other two 3D Sonic games released before Sonic Heroes. Sonic is the fastest he has ever been. It's hard to explain, but there's this primal level of joy that I get just tearing through stages as Sonic. There is also a soft leveling system in the game. Each character can level up 3 times by grabbing an orb to their corresponding color. These orbs are found from random drops from enemies, item capsules, and you get a level up from passing a checkpoint. As I said, the leveling system in this game is mostly cosmetic. All it really does is make your characters hit a little bit harder. Finally, when the team gauge meter in the top right of the screen is all charged up, you can do a special attack. This special attack acts as a screen nuke and is really useful for clearing large mobs of enemies. Knowing when to use it is key to faster clear times on stages. So this all sounds good, right? A little complicated, sure, but nothing that someone who has played a game before wouldn't be able to handle. So what's the problem? It mainly just comes down to the way how Sonic specifically controls. He is super loose, as previously mentioned. So loose that controlling him on a narrow walkway can be an absolute nightmare. You will almost certainly die. So Sonic's controls are way too slippery. Shouldn't that break the game, right? Well, no. At least not in my opinion, because while he may be too slippery, Knuckles and Tails aren't anywhere near as loose or slippery. Meaning that in order to do well in this game, you have to constantly switch around characters and experiment to see which group member is best for which scenario. I think this design choice is absolutely brilliant by Sonic Team, as it rewards experimental play while maintaining the pick up and play style that the Sonic series is known for. However, the way Sonic controls is undoubtedly the reason why this game is so divisive among fans and critics. Almost every review I've ever seen or read about Sonic Heroes that hated the game always hangs on this fact, and I think that is a completely valid issue to have with it. Sonic controls too loose, and it leads to a lot of people not enjoying playing as him, and that's a death sentence for many Sonic fans. I'm not going to sit here and act like some omniscient being because I figured out how to play the game and have a good time with it, then say everyone on the internet's opinion is wrong and they're all just playing the game wrong and it's a brilliant masterpiece that should be devoid of criticism. I think Sonic controlling as loosely as he does here is a problem with the game, as there are quite a few narrow walkways and precise platforms that if you attempt them as Sonic, you're probably going to die. While I find Sonic's loose controls a problem, I don't think they're game breaking, mostly because the other two characters control way tighter. This results in me actually interacting with the switching mechanic a lot in the game, which is something I really appreciate. I mean, think about it. How often in games are you given mechanics that you kind of just throw away in your head or don't interact with? One of my favorite games, DuckTales on the NES, has this neat mechanic where you strike an object with Scrooge McDuck's cane and it goes flying. It's a neat mechanic that could lead to some really interesting levels designed around it. However, it never amounts to much and is very underutilized in the game. Meanwhile, here in Sonic Heroes, I'm constantly engaging with the character switching mechanic. It's something in game design that I've really come to respect over the years. Games like Super Mario Sunshine, Kingdom Hearts 2 on Critical Mode, Resident Evil 4, and now Sonic Heroes are some of my favorite games, as they don't really care if you like the core gameplay mechanics. They're designed around the idea that if you want to succeed and have fun in them, you have to engage with the games on their own terms. Sonic Heroes was designed to be a throwback to the original Sega Genesis games that made Sonic famous in the first place, and I think it completely succeeds in that regard, as much like the Genesis originals, Sonic Heroes has a large emphasis on replay value, because like Sonic Adventure 2 before it, at the end of a stage you get rated on your performance. These ratings aren't like the modern Sonic games where you're basically guaranteed a max rating just because you went through the stage fast. No, in order to get an A rank, you have to get through a stage deathless, killing as many enemies as you can with characters' levels maxed out, a team blast fully charged, and of course as quickly as possible. This ranking system highly rewards replaying the stages, as it can be so addictive to clear through a stage and then just barely miss the A rank. It's that right amount for me of being obtainable, but then not easy enough that makes going for all A ranks with all the teams so tempting. It's not easy at all though. I'm not ashamed to admit that I couldn't get a single A in my playthrough as Team Shadow, or as I call it, hard mode. That's right, it's time to address the elephant in the room that I haven't mentioned until now. Sonic Heroes has a difficulty select, kinda. So, like the previous games in the Sonic Adventure style of Sonic games, Sonic Heroes has multiple different playable characters, or teams in this case. Team Sonic is the de facto normal mode, Team Shadow is hard mode, Team Rose is easy mode, and the less said about Team Chaotix, the better. That's right, the teams on the selection screen determine how hard the campaign you play will be, but it's done in a really smart way, because instead of doing the standard difficulty selection thing where enemies just have more health or less health, Sonic Heroes actually makes the game easier or harder by altering the level's start and end points. For instance, as Team Rose, the starting point in a level will be closer to the goal ring than Team Sonic or Team Shadows, meaning that Team Rose's stages are the shortest to get through. Also in Team Rose, the game manually switches your party composition a lot, ensuring that you have the ideal party member for the section of the stage. In a way, it almost feels like a tutorial playthrough of the game, as it really shows you how important the switching mechanic is to the game. Thankfully as well, all of the party formations controlled the same. You have a strong brawling type, a flyer, and a speedster, so once you've played through one of the campaigns, you'll feel right at home in the others. I really feel like Team Rose should be the campaign most people play through first, but I know 90% of people are going to pick Sonic first. I know some people might call this padding out the game's runtime to unlock the final story campaign. However, as previously outlined, I think that Team Rose, Sonic, and Shadow all make sense to be in the game, as they all serve to make you better at learning the levels and utilizing the switching mechanic. That's not to say the game has no filler though. As I previously alluded to, the Chaotix campaign sucks, to be blunt. So unlike the other three campaigns, the Chaotix campaign is unique in the sense that instead of taking a linear approach to the stages where the goal is to get to the goal ring at the end, the Chaotix take the stages from the previous three campaigns and attempt to make them open-ended by making the goal of each stage accomplishing an objective rather than just getting to the goal ring. The problem is that the stages just aren't really designed for this style of play well. You'll be running around in circles looking for the odd MacGuffin or the robot to smash or whatever inevitably at some point during this campaign, and it's just not fun. You can get good at gathering these MacGuffins, but more than any other time in the game, this campaign feels like blatant padding. Also, screw Rail Canyon. I know a lot of people hate Casino Park and the other pinball level, but they didn't bother me. Those stages may not have bothered me because of years of playing the infamous pachinko machine level in Mario Sunshine has made me think that any pinball style stage in a game with some form of control over the character is actually not that bad. No, if there's one bad stage in Sonic Heroes, it's Rail Canyon, mostly because the hopping from rail to rail in Sonic games, pre-Sonic Unleashed, has always been a bit dicey. They added a quick hop to make rail hopping easier, but it often just got me killed when I would use it. Then there's this part right here where I swear to God, gun to my head, if I try to do this fast, I'll die every time. I have to slow down and sometimes even go into Tails formation and jump over the boost pad or I die. God, why was this level selected for Shadow Generations? Although, I guess it did lead to a good version of it finally existing on the bright side, I guess. The English dub to Sonic Heroes is also trash. I know ragging on a mid-2000s 4Kids dub isn't a thought-provoking thing, but it still sucks, especially Charmy B's VA.
Lots of money! We did it! Here it comes!
God, her voice, it just grates on my ears so much. The voices bothered me so much, it led to me installing a mod chip into my GameCube and buying a Japanese copy of the game, so that way I didn't have to hear them anymore when I play the game. I know a lot of the VAs would get better as the games would go on, but man, is it rough here. Since I'm discussing the voice acting, I might as well discuss the story, and well, it's alright. I seriously don't have much to say other than it's your typical Sonic stuff. Sonic and his group are trying to stop the bad guy, Amy and her group are chasing after Sonic's group. Shadow is trying to find out if he's a clone or not after he appeared to die at the end of Sonic Adventure 2. Alright, that could be interesting. But unfortunately, it doesn't go anywhere and isn't resolved until Shadow the Hedgehog. Funnily, the story I got the most amusement out of was the Chaotix team story. In that team's story, the Chaotix, who are detectives by the way, are hired to rescue a client. At the end, it's revealed that the client who has been guiding them all throughout the campaign is a kidnapped Eggman. The thing is that at the end, it's revealed that Vector knew all along the client's identity, which is hilarious to me. Like, is Vector actually the world's greatest detective in the Sonicverse? This threw me for such a loop that I laughed for about 5 minutes. This is the one highlight of the Chaotix campaign. I really don't have much to say about the story. I find it a little underwhelming, however I do think it was a wise move on Sonic Team's part to make it more lighthearted. After stories that are fairly serious like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2's, I think going in the opposite direction is a great move. So while it's underwhelming, I wouldn't call it bad or even a bad decision from Sonic Team. Now it's the time for me to talk about the music of the game, and this is normally the point in the video where I tell you that I don't like music, but I like the music in this game, and yep, that's the case here. The Sonic series is known for having great soundtracks, and Sonic Heroes is no different. The soundtrack here is great. I might hate playing the level Rail Canyon, but the song for it is great. I especially love the opening track for the game. Sure, it's a little corny, but man, every time I start this game up, it pumps me up. Graphically speaking, Sonic Heroes looks really good. Sega didn't make this game on the Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 engine, instead they opted to use Renderware engine, aka the best video game engine of the 7th generation of consoles. It shows too, as Sonic Heroes stages are so bright and colorful. The game looks lovely on my CRT TV. I also love that this game runs at 60 frames per second on certain versions at least. The smoothness in 60 FPS really makes a high-paced platformer like this so much better. Lastly, I want to mention this game is also available on the PlayStation 2, PC, and original Xbox. For the sake of this video, I played the GameCube version of the game, however, I did play a bit of the PS2 version, which I had heard was nowhere near as good as the GameCube port. Yeah, I can confirm, it's not as good. It runs at 30 frames per second and not 60, the controls felt worse. Weirdly enough, I noticed a good amount of frame stutter as well. Avoid this version. I can't comment on the original Xbox version as I don't own an OG Xbox, and it's not backwards compatible on the Xbox One, sadly enough. Finally, the PC version has never been re-released, so I wasn't able to try that one, as I'm way too lazy to patch the game to get it running on modern-ish PCs, although I've heard it's very similar to the Xbox version. So basically stick to the GameCube version of the game, which unfortunately is a bit pricey these days. Currently, there are a bunch of rumors that Sonic Heroes might receive some form of HD version or port. Hopefully that happens so more people can experience a good version of this game without spending a ton on it. That's gonna do it for today. Sonic Heroes is slowly becoming one of my favorite Sonic games and maybe my new favorite 3D Sonic game. I hope I was able to convey why I like this game so much today, but if you feel I didn't, let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you could, like this video, turn on the notifications, and subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. Until next time, peace.
Buildings and roads are all part of a pinball table. Pretty cool. Hey, there they are.
Doctor Eggman robot!
I'll take care of them. It's really steep here. Be careful. Got it. Shift! Shift!
Get close to the switch and press the